Like my last upload, which was about old Counter-Strike skins, this one begins with me watching some shit on the internet. A few days ago, my YouTube feed was blessed with a video titled The Goonification of Culture. It was by ArtChad. And in a moment of brainless YouTube video thumbnail clicking, I threw that shit on, and it called me out hard. You see, ArtChad posits that the way we interact with our world is accelerating towards goonerisms, goon behavior, goon mentality, and not specifically with relationship to consuming adult material, but rather the way that we are constantly flooding our senses to stay completely shut off from the rest of the world. The culture industry is moving so fast towards developing whatever can keep us in our goon caves, locked in, our minds just completely separated from the world around us. And that's kind of his basic thesis. And in some sort of poetic justice, I didn't even watch this video. I listened to it while I was playing The Binding of Isaac on my main monitor. For me, the Binding of Isaac plus video essay brain blast double combo is a vicious and intoxicating vice that grips me like a strung out Face-It prodigy grips his mouse. The ritual is hyper pornographic in nature as I comb YouTube for a video that looks interesting, all up to my specific specifications, figure out which S-tier Isaac item I'm going to unlock, throw that shit on, load up the game, and just enter a coma of brain dopamine injection straight through my ears and eyes. I can completely disregard the education that I'm supposed to be working towards in college. I can forget that my desk is cluttered as shit, there's laundry, there's dishes I gotta do, there's a lease application that I need to talk to my mother about, I gotta go get my estrogen refill. All of that stuff is gone. All of those parts of my shitty Chungus life, poof, evaporated for hours on end. This is like a goon dimension that I enter. And suddenly, I was compelled to break out of it. I realized that feminizing hormones may have saved me from gooning to actual porn, but they did not stop me from gooning via the roguelike plus video essay wombo combo. In a way, I view this ritual as a means of temporary death. I can completely divorce myself from life, and I'm quite sick of engaging in it. But I just can't stop the feeling that I get when I find that quality 4 item and Isaac does that little dance that I modded in. It's just, oh, it just does something to my brain. Especially if like FD Signifier's voice is going on in the background. So I finished my run, got my unlock, and then looked at myself in the mirror for a bit. I had a sore throat, my face was unshaven, I felt like shit. This is what gooning has done to me. So now I am making this video to interrogate and identify agents in my life that function as forms of gooning so I can place my crosshairs on them. But I also want to illuminate a trend in my favorite video game that has kind of ruined my enjoyment of it and my perception of it in general. I don't want my life to be defined by perverted behavior. I've got to fix it. Firstly, there's The Binding of Isaac, and like, I fucking love this game. It's a malformed gambling apparatus that might not suck your money out of you, but it will devour your time. This game fucking rules, and like, seriously, like, you should consider playing it because it's awesome. But I've got to change my relationship with it. What's even more embarrassing than using The Binding of Isaac to goon is watching somebody else goon vicariously through Binding of Isaac Let's Play videos. No more watching people play The Binding of Isaac. I'm done. I am on YouTube. I'm saying don't recommend this shit to me anymore. And look, if I'm gonna play this game, I need to stop having a video essay open on my second monitor. Maybe I could stream the game, forcing myself to interact and be seen on camera, so I at least take care of myself beforehand. And you might think that's a little hypocritical, because then I am outputting my own voyeuristic goon material out into the world, but nobody even watches my stream, so that doesn't fucking matter. It's twitch.tv/AveryCS, by the way. Now, unfortunately, that brings us to the main topic of this video, the center of this YouTube channel, Counter-Strike 2. And I say this with a deep sadness and pain in my heart, but Counter-Strike has become a porn website. Back in CSGO, I used to spend an hour warming up as a form of foreplay, and then queue face it, and if I won, it felt like I worked for it. It was like something I was contributing towards. And if I lost, it forced me to encounter parts about myself, my life, reflect on it. That was a romantic relationship, and as rocky as it was not a gooning type relationship. I would not usually play Counter-Strike to zone out, except for retakes. I would do that sometimes. I would go on retakes, and that's a problem. But the way that CSGO wanted you to play required your attention and your work. CS2 has made that kind of relationship a little bit difficult. The game just quite honestly isn't a good competitive game. It's not polished. It doesn't meet the standards that I need to put genuine love and care into. It's got shitty performance, movement that is an uncanny version of its former self, fucked up shooting, and overall just isn't really a sport. And CSGO was a sport. And nowadays, if I'm booting up Counter-Strike, I just kind of want to fuck around. Now, let me be clear, playing with your friends, goofing off, joking, that's not like necessarily a form of gooning, and at least you're interacting with other people. It's a social experience, it's a rewarding experience, and I think it's kind of a cool form of improv, and I'm happy to continue doing that. But I'd be lying if I said that wasn't a step away from the old relationship that I used to have with the game, where I really did treat it like a sport that I would practice, a skill that I would hone and work on. And this is where the switch to CS2 really starts to make me depressed, because although I want to get excited about new horizons for the game, a lot of the big issues just aren't getting fixed. It's been a long time since CSGO was taken away from us, and the game is getting closer and closer to goon material. Engaging with Counter-Strike as a sport is getting tiring. Valve just continues to refuse to do anything about the toxic player base of internet edgelord shitheads, the shitty rank system that nobody really wants to play, and just the overall feeling of booting up Counter-Strike and playing it. It feels so much closer to Call of Duty than it ever has before. Not too long ago, I had a phase where I was so sick of CS that I started playing Valorant. Fucking Valorant. And you want to know why? Because aiming and shooting in that game actually feels good. That's something I used to be able to say Counter-Strike did way better, but alas, the way that it feels like Valve wants me to play Counter-Strike in the golden age of 2025 is to queue a mode I don't give a shit about, to farm points, to gamble in the Armory update, and that sucks. The worst part about it is how powerless the community is. Valve has forced all community servers to run on their shitty netcode so that we can't realize what we're missing out on. Kind of seeing Counter-Strike through this lens of goon material has led me to vibe check the content that I make on this YouTube channel, because unfortunately a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here is goon material. Like, these videos are basically just glorified top 5 skin videos. These are funny moments montages. This video of me saying that Counter-Strike is turning into slop is slop. I just picked up the mic and started yapping and poorly stitched it together. I mean, what am I doing? Now here's the deal. I don't know if I can completely quit making slop, but if I am going to put something out that borders on a little bit sloppy, and all YouTube videos to some degree do, I at least want it to be innovative on some level. I'm not going to upload something unless I'm genuinely proud of it. Now, if you, like me, are a Counter-Strike player who shares my sadness for the game's descent into goon material garbage and the degradation of CSGO's sportliness, I have a call to action for you. I want you to play Melee. I'm serious, this game is everything you want. It's an old, rich tradition whose community has taken control of the game in the face of the company that made it constantly trying to fuck us over. It's a game that is extremely straightforward at face value, but blossoms into one of the most mechanically and tactically complex games ever made. And if you live in the US or Canada in a city of more than 50,000 people, there's probably a free weekly tournament where you can not only play this beautiful game, but socialize with real people in real life. That's fucking awesome, okay? In Counter-Strike, everybody on there is an anonymous player. They don't have to be beholden to any of the things that being a real person in real life imposes on you, any of those restrictions. And so the result is people treat each other like shit. No respect for their teammates, definitely no respect for their opponents, no respect for the game, if I'm being honest. People on Counter-Strike genuinely want their peers to have less fun than them and to be worse than them. And that's because it's online. It's because they don't have to deal with all of the checks and balances that go into being a social person in a real world context where you have a face and you have responsibility. All you need to play is a Mayflash adapter and a GameCube controller. And if you end up getting really into it, I recommend a fob. It's a custom third-party mod of a GameCube controller that has a lot of features and is overall just more responsive and will last you a lot longer. They're expensive, but I can say with very high certainty that they're cheaper than the mouse, keyboard, mousepad, and monitor that you bought to play CSGO. Especially if you meet somebody local who builds fobs, they could probably get you a pretty good deal. If you get one online, they're like $200 to $300, which I think is just a little much. But Melee is a beautiful game that exemplifies everything that video games can be outside of gameplay gooning services. Melee is a romance, and I would even say a better one than CSGO was. Or you could just play StarCraft Brood War. That's about all I have for today's manifesto. Please subscribe if you haven't already. I just dropped a 7-minute and 42-second long trance track on my SoundCloud. You're actually listening to it right now. And you can go give it a spin and be amazed at how understimulating it is. Okay, bye.